So today is Friday, Beis Iyar, Lecha Rebbe, the Rebbe Marash's birthday, Tovshin Ayin Gimel. We're in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamorim, Tovshin Yud Aleph, Tovshin Yud Beis, and we are in the Maimer of Shabbos Parsha Shlach. The Vorcha Chedesh Tammuz, Tovshin Yud Aleph, Dibra Baschel Shlach Lecha. We're actually up to Ois Beis, chapter 2 on page Kuf Aleph. To give a summary of the Rebbe's question.
What page is it?
Kuf Aleph.
Yeah.
It says in the pasuk concerning the sending of the Meraglim, the spies. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Shlach lecha anoshim, send men unto you, send unto you, lecha, to you." What's to you? Because it's shlach anoshim. What's shlach lecha? So Rashi says, "L'daitecha." It's your decision, according to your mind. In other words, whatever you'll choose, it's up to you. I'm leaving it to you. I'm not instructing you. If you want, send them. That's what Rashi says. Says the Rebbe. Good morning, Eddie. Says the Rebbe.
Start again.
Says the Rebbe. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Rashi says Lecha means it's your decision. I'm not instructing you. But from the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu actually sent the Meraglim, we must say that Moshe Rabbeinu actually felt that the Meraglim should be sent. Or let's put it a little more subtly. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't against the Meraglim being sent. Why? Because Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, it's your decision. Whatever you'll decide, that's what you should. That's fine, right? It's your decision whether to send or not. And they were sent. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's decision in one way or another, right? That the Meraglim should be sent. Otherwise, it would be defying. He wouldn't be fulfilling the condition Hashem put to him. It wouldn't be his decision. What's the vort? So the Rebbe says like this. That he says it seems that this is not so straightforward because later on in Chumash Dvarim, when Moshe Rabbeinu recalls to the Yidden all the history that happened in the 40 years that they were in the desert, he talks about this episode of sending the Meraglim. And he says, you all came up to me and you said, let's send people, right? And I liked the idea. It was a good idea. However, our sages teach us on that Moshe Rabbeinu, what he was doing was, it's a mashal for a person who comes to buy something from another person. An animal, or I don't remember exactly what he comes to buy, but let's say an animal, a donkey, right? And the buyer says to the seller, can I check it out? Can I test it? Can I inspect it? He says, do what you like. Test it, check it out, try it before you buy it, do what you want. What's the psychology? What's his thinking? His thinking is that if I will be giving in terms of, I wouldn't put any obstacles in his way in terms of inspecting it, I'll be very open about it, I'll be very giving and allowing, he'll think to himself, oh, if he doesn't care, if he's really not bothered about me checking it out, and I can do as I please to determine... It must be all right. And therefore he probably won't go through checking it. He won't. Nevertheless, what happened in the end was, the Eden said, okay, we can send the Meraglim, and they actually sent them. From this it's mashma, from this it seems that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't really happy about the Meraglim being sent. Says the Rebbe, nevertheless, we must say that Moshe Rabbeinu felt, to one extent or another, that the Meraglim should be sent. Because Hashem says to him, Shlach lecha l'daitecha. It's your decision. So what's Moshe Rabbeinu going to come and say? I didn't want the Yidden sort of maneuver their way in and compelled me to send them. That's not what Hashem said to him. So maybe he wasn't thrilled about it. Maybe he didn't take the initiative to send them. It was the proposition that Yidden came and said, perhaps we should send, and he agreed, right? So, but it must be that it was the das Moshe. Moshe was of the opinion that Meraglim should be sent. Maybe not as a lechatchila, but at least as a b'diavad. I'm using my words, but because otherwise it's not l'daitecha. That's so the Rebbe asks, why did Moshe Rabbeinu feel that Meraglim should be sent? Why did Moshe Rabbeinu feel it necessary that Meraglim should be sent? Or let's put it even more. Why wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm using my words, why wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu against the Meraglim being sent? Why didn't he put his foot down? Right? Why? What's the problem? Because Hashem comes and says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to take the Yidden to the promised land, right? To this wonderful land. What's up with Shikim Meraglim? To go and check out whether the Eibishter whether it's okay or not. And the Rebbe says the question is even stronger. And he brings the Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara in Brachas says, it says in Oz Yosher twice, Ad Yaver. Right? Ad Yaver Amcha Hashem, Ad Yaver Amzuka Nisa. Right? That upon them will fall fear and trepidation until your nation Hashem will cross, until your nation that you've acquired will cross. It says twice, will cross. Cross into Eretz Yisrael. Why does it say twice? It's not just a turn of phrase, Chazal say in Brachas. It actually refers to two types of cross, two times when Yidden crossed into Eretz Yisrael. Which two times? The first time under Yeshua, at the end of the 40 years in the desert, and the second time after the Golus Bavel, when Ezra recalled the Yidden back to Eretz Yisrael. Right? And the Chachamim say that Yidden were roi, they were fit, that a miracle should happen to them in the time of Ezra when they crossed into Eretz Yisrael, just like the miracle that happened to them, the miracles that happened to them at the time when they crossed in the time of Yeshua.
When was Oz Yeshua written?
Sorry?
Oz Yeshua was written before.
Correct. So it's a nevuah, yeah. Right? What happened at the time? What is the miracle? So the Chazal say that just like the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael under Yeshua, biyad Rama, with an outstretched arm, with a great miracle, with an outstretched arm, so too in the time of Ezra, the Yidden were fit that they should come into Eretz Yisrael in the same way. What happened in the time of now? So in other words, the entry into Eretz Yisrael under Yeshua is brought as the example of the Yidden entering in a miraculous way with an outstretched arm. Right? How did the Yidden enter into Eretz Yisrael under Yeshua? So there's a pasuk in Yeshua that when the Malach comes to Yeshua and says, okay, I'm here with you, let's go, the Malach that Hashem said, Ata Bossi, I have come now. I have come, now let's go. Right? Was ist I've come now? Obviously I've come now. He wasn't there before. Was ist Ata Bossi? So again the Chazal say, but not in the days of Moshe, your Rebbe. In the days of Moshe, had Moshe Rabbeinu, before the Meraglim, right? when plan A, when Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that was going to bring the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, Hashem said after the story with the Egel, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, let's go. So let's go. We're traveling to Eretz Yisrael. I'm sending my angel before you, and he will chase away the Knaini, the Perisi, and so on, all the nations. They will all be afraid of you. Moshe Rabbeinu turns to Hashem and says, no. If you yourself are not coming with us, you're sending your angel, don't take us up from here. If you want us to come to Israel, I insist that it should be you yourself. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Had Moshe Rabbeinu actually taken the Yidden into Israel, what would have been? They would have been led by whom? By Moshe Rabbeinu and whom? And Hashem himself, not through any angel. That was the agreement Moshe Rabbeinu made with Hashem. Lepoil, and actually the bottom line was, at the end of the day, Moshe Rabbeinu did not take the Yidden into Israel. Why? Because subsequently he hit the rock instead of speaking to it. And Hashem said, you're not going into Israel. Right? That happened when? Later. That happened after the story of the Meraglim. But when we were dealing with the story of the Meraglim, we were still in plan A. The plan still was that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one to take the Yidden into Israel. And as we know, Moshe Rabbeinu insisted and got Hashem's agreement that when they go into Eretz Yisrael with Moshe, Hashem himself will lead the Yidden, will join them rather than sending his malach, right? I know it's a very long-winded build-up, but the Rebbe's point is basically this. So if, at the end of the day, what happened? Yeshua took the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, right? Because of an event that happened later after the Meraglim. And who went with Yeshua? Whom did Hashem send to join Yeshua? He sent an angel rather than going himself. And nevertheless, Yeshua's leading the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, the entry of the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael under Yeshua, is held up as an example of a miraculous entry, of entering into Israel miraculously and with an outstretched arm, to the extent that we say that even in the times of Ezra, that also in the times of Ezra, the Eden were fit to enter into Israel so miraculously and with such an outstretched arm, so confidently, so greatly, and so wonderfully. Just like it was in the time of Yeshua, and in the time of Yeshua, it was only an angel that led them. So the Avada Givis, certainly, if Moshe Rabbeinu would have taken the Eden into Israel, and Hashem himself would have joined him, then for sure the entry would have been in the most miraculous way and in the most outstretched arm way. Right? The entry would have been much greater. So this strengthens the question, Vos mitamol Moshe Rabbeinu agreeing that they should send Meraglim, they should send spies. What's the point of sending the spies? What does a spy do? To check out if the inhabitants are strong or weak, to check if the inhabitants are sitting in fortified cities or in open cities. What difference does it make? Let them be the strongest, let them have the most fortified cities, let them have all the arms in the world, let them have all the protection in the world. It's completely irrelevant. Because who is joining them? Hashem himself. So if the time of Yeshua when only a Malach was joining him, they had all these miracles, it doesn't spell it out, but you know the story with Yericho, they went around and they blew the shofar and the wall collapsed. They had a fortified city. What happened? It fell like that. So Madach then, the fortifications and the strength of the locals was irrelevant. So certainly, what if Hashem himself would come into Eretz Yisrael with Moshe Rabbeinu? It would certainly be irrelevant. So Vos mitamol, you're sending Meraglim. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu agreeing that Meraglim should be sent? What's the point? That is the Rebbe's question. The bottom line, the question is, what was Moshe Rabbeinu must have agreed at some level. Maybe he wasn't enthusiastic, maybe he didn't take the initiative, but Hashem said it's l'daitecha, Shlach Lecha, and Moshe Rabbeinu agreed. So with Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the day was of the opinion that Meraglim should be sent. Moshe Rabbeinu should agree that Meraglim should be sent for what purpose?
Derech HaTeva.
But we know that it's not. David says to them, I'm going with you. The whole point was it was Lamayla B'derech HaTeva. This is the question. Maybe, okay, Derech HaTeva is an answer, but let's see what the Rebbe says. It doesn't, I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu's frame of reality was what David told him. He saw reality in a different way. Right? So Moshe Rabbeinu, if you would say the Yidden who did not see what Moshe Rabbeinu saw, okay, they'll say, look, we would like to be, also, see it from our perspective that we can deal with it. But Moshe Rabbeinu certainly was looking at it from a different perspective. This is the question.
There's no doubt that the Abishter wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to do something. I mean, they still had to go to Jericho and go around the walls. Jericho just didn't disappear. So there was some involvement of Mekayim to Mekayim, the land that they had to do. So Moshe Rabbeinu took no, is that part of his responsibility to send out spies? How much of Derech HaTeva did he have to get involved in?
Let's see how the Rebbe answers it.
Also,
Many times.
Also, two of the spies were successful.
Sorry?
Two of the spies were successful.
By Yeshua. Oh, you mean Yeshua and Kalev? Under Moshe Rabbeinu.
Yeah.
Was they successful? Yeah, they were successful because they
They
came
went to
against
pray, and that's what their main intention
Okay.
was. So
Okay.
you
But
could say
you'd be
that
better
that
off-
was what-
be
what
better
was-
off not-
That was what Moshe Rabbeinu's intention was.
Lamas then was the Rebbe answer.
All right.
Oyis Beis. There are many ways to answer the question. Obviously, the Rebbe is not after the pshat. The Rebbe over here is after the pnimis dike inyan of what Eretz Yisrael represents. And in other words, why was it necessary, given what Eretz Yisrael represents, to send spies? What's this negeya, the spies? And it should be the daitacha of Moshe. If it was so derech hateva, why didn't the Eibush tell Moshe Rabbeinu, yes, go and send them? And let me say what's the Rebbe answer. Beis. The Yuvan, it will be understood by Haktim Tchila Bir Klos in Leknis La'aretz by first prefacing the general idea of entering in Eretz Yisrael. Shall Pizeh Yuvan Gam Atzerich L'Shidduch Meraglim. When we will understand the general idea, the general concept of going into Eretz Yisrael, it'll become clear why it was necessary to send spies. The Rebbe touches along these lines, but let's see how the Rebbe articulates it. What was the innovation that came about? What was the new innovation that was brought about al Shalidei Knisa through entering Eretz Yisrael? What began with entering Eretz Yisrael that didn't exist before? When did the fulfillment of actual practical mitzvahs begin? When Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael. For although even when the Yidden were in the desert, their conduct was also according to the Torah. Nevertheless, the fulfillment of mitzvahs then was only temporarily. The Mishkan was a temporary structure. There were many karbonos that they didn't bring while they were in the midbar. In fact, according to the Even Ezra, for example, if you take the carbon tamid, which is brought twice a day, we say also in davening, before davening every day in the karbonos, we say oilas tamid ha'asuya bahar Sinai, right? The oilas tamid, which was brought when bahar Sinai. According to the Even Ezra, he takes it literally. They brought the carbon tamid once, bahar Sinai, and they didn't bring it again until they came to Eretz Yisrael. But there were certainly other kabbalas, even according to others, that were not brought in the midbar. In the midbar, it was still in a transitionary mode. Everything was in a transitionary mode. Only a little bit of the mitzvahs were actually performed in the midbar consistently. For example, another one would be tefillin. According to the question is, how many parshiyos of tefillin we have? How many parshiyos in tefillin? We have 4 parshiyos: Shema, V'hoya, Kadesh, and V'hoya Kiviyacha. Right? Where's Shema and V'hoya? It's in Chumash Devarim. When did Moshe Rabbeinu say Chumash Devarim? On the day he passed away. So what tefillin did Yidden wear for 40 years in the desert? So state, certainly according to some, that we only had 2 parshas. The Yidden in the desert only had 2 parshas in that film. So the mitzvahs in the desert were different than the actual mitzvahs that began. Mitzvahs in earnest and properly and permanently began when the Yidden entered into Eretz Yisrael. Yes, exactly, the Korban Pesach, because when were they, it says at the end of the 40 years, they made a bris milah, right? Yeshua circumcised all the Yidden, and then in the Haftarah, we read it in one of the Haftarahs, right? The main aspects of fulfilling the mitzvahs, the main idea of fulfilling mitzvahs in practically the Ma'aseh B'Peil began when they entered into Eretz Yisrael. Ukamay, for example, Lametes Malachas de Shabbos. The 39 malachas that we were prohibited to do on Shabbos. The Tana Sidura de Pas Nokat. The Gemara says in Shabbos that the Tana enumerates in the Mishnah the 39 malachas, the 39 tasks that a person is not allowed to do on Shabbos. He says, Hacheresh, Hazereya, the one that plows, the one that sows, the one that reaps, the one that cuts, harvests, right? So the Gemara asks, why does the Mishnah enumerate them in this order? So the Gemara answers, the Tana talks about the order of how you prepare food. First you plow, then you sow, then you cut. So he's going in the order of how these tasks are performed. When did that begin? When they were in the desert, this did not take place. Why? What did the Yidden eat in the desert? Bread from heaven, man. The Inyan Zen is Chadish b'vayim la'aretz dafke. This idea of fulfilling mitzvahs, maisius, right? Actual mitzvahs, was innovated when they entered into Eretz Yisrael. She'oz is Chadish ikri Inyan ki mitzvahs maisius. That is when the main idea of fulfilling practical mitzvahs began. So what do we see? That mitzvahs maisis, fulfilling mitzvahs in a practical way, actually fulfilling mitzvahs, has a tremendous milah. It possesses a tremendous quality, which began when Yidden. We know that coming into Yisrael is the greatest event that could happen for a Yid. And what began then, mitzvahs maisis, practical mitzvahs. So it means that fulfilling mitzvahs practically is tremendously great. What's so great about fulfilling mitzvahs practically? That's what the Rebbe addresses. Another couple of lines. And to understand the great quality of fulfilling mitzvahs maisis, actual mitzvahs. that was innovated when they entered into Eretz Yisrael. Yesh lahaktim. We first need to preface hamevur b'lekut Torah, that which the Alter Rebbe explains in Lekut Torah, she'avodas hatzadikim nechlekes lebeis sugim. That the service of tzaddikim to Hashem is divided into two categories: livyoson v'sheir habar. Livyoson and sheir habar. How do you translate? The livyoson is the leviathan, this big fish or
Fat ox.
sea animal, huh?
Yeah, the ox.
And sheir habar, and the great big ox. What we know that this is what we're talking about. That what this is going to be on the menu in the meal that when Mashiach comes, right? But in the Lekut Torah, the Alter Rebbe explains that the Livyosan and Sheir Habar actually denotes two types of tzaddikim.
Definitely flesh, excuse.
Well, Livyosan is fish, so I don't know. Maybe maybe some cream cheese as well. I don't know. So now we're talking, huh?
Vegetarian is like meat.
Fish. The fish, the fish. So good morning. So. And that is why the reward when Mashiach comes is Livyosan and Sheir Habar, because Bepnimi Yisrael Yadim, in the inner sense of it, they actually represent two types of tzaddikim. What does that mean? Tzaddikim shem b'chinas Livyosan. What's the word Livyosan is from the word of Levi. Levi, you love it. Why was Levi called you love? Why did Leah call her son Levi by that name Levi? So the Torah says, because she said, Hapam Yilove Ishi Elai, Ki Yoladiti Lo Shleisha Banim. This time, with this son, my husband will follow me, will join me, because I have given birth, I have bore him 3 sons. So Levi means follow or connect, to be connected. So what's Livyosan? His chabrus. Livyosan Shuloshan his chabrus, K'mei Hapam Yilove Ishi Elai, Livyosan tzaddikim who are in the level of Livyosan, which means his chabrus connection. From the expression of Apam Yilove Ishi Elai, Hine Iker Avedasam became a mitzvah, so Liyachid Yichudim Al Yoinim, She Aved Ruchnis. Their main Aveda, the way they mainly serve Hashem through fulfilling mitzvahs, is for the purpose of uniting celestial unities, which is a spiritual Aveda, serving Hashem spiritually. We know many times in the stories of the Baal Shem Tov, or the early tzaddikim, through certain shemus, through certain, they had their Aveda was the idea of they did physical acts, but they actually represented the unity of different shemus of different names of Hashem, which caused a tremendous flow of divine energy in all the worlds, particularly in the in the spiritual worlds. So that's how I say the Aveda tzaddikim whose task is liyachid yichudim, miyachid yichudim, right? V'zeu gam asher Livyosan kipshuta hu dag nune yama. This is also why the actual Livyosan is what? As a fish. Nune yama, it's a sea animal. Shezeu inyan haneshama alma diskasya. What's the reference? What's the sea? What is the difference between the sea and dry land? Beruchnius. The dry land represents alma disgalia, the revealed world, because on the dry land everything is revealed. The sea represents alma diskasya, the concealed world, because everything is covered. Similar to the creatures of the sea that do not separate from their source or from the root from their source. So neshamas of tzaddikim that are b'chinas Livyosan, like the fish, that when they serve Hashem down here, it's a spiritual service, to unite celestial unities, to cause unity, different unities among different names of Hashem, different spiritual forces, which brings down divine energy. Why? Because they're like a fish in the sea, meaning to say, a neshama from Alma Diskasya, a soul from the concealed world. So even down here, what type of Aveda do they do? What type of service of Hashem do they do? A spiritual type of service. This idea of being Miyachad Yichudim. And the Rebbe goes on, you have to start argument, that by Rashbi, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, when he was where? In the cave, he was there for 13 years. He was hindered from performing physical mitzvahs, but we can't say that he was lacking anything. So how did he accomplish those things that you fulfill through physical mitzvah? Through doing it spiritually. This Indian of being Yachad Yichudim, through doing the spiritual service, which had which accomplished Lamaila up above similar effects and similar things, similar phenomena to what would be otherwise performed through a physical mitzvah. So in other words, there are tzaddikim that serve Hashem in a more spiritual way. These are the Leviathans, Livyosum. We'll learn about that more in Mr. Shem on Sunday.